Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on From Fact to Fiction, where we unpack the truth behind my favorite specialty thrillers. Think Robin Cook, John le Carre, and Michael Crichton. And while each of these different in specialty, from medical to espionage to techno thriller, each immerses the reader in a new but realistic world. And the best of these blend fact with fiction so well you don't know what is, what could be, and what's totally impossible. It would take an expert to know. And that's why each week I pair up with an expert. We select a new specialty thriller. We'll not only talk about why we love the book, but also unpack the truth behind the fiction. And today, our book is a 2026 suspense thriller, Rule One by Michael Lucker. It's a finalist for a Silver Falchion Award, which is a prestigious award for our non-writers out there. And I listened to the audiobook, and it is just terrific. Our guest today is the author and expert. Our expert is our author, Michael Lucker. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good. So, ever been to a doctor who didn't listen, who didn't care, who didn't help? Ever wish you could change places with them to have them experience your pains firsthand? Maybe if they knew how you felt, they would take you seriously. Rule One is a thriller to teach those doctors a lesson. What do you think? Did I get it?
You encapsulated it so well. Maybe you should be my agent.
So we
Yeah.
said Michael, our expert, has been writing songs, articles, and plays since the fourth grade. And after graduating from Boston University, he and his Mercury Capri hit the road for LA, where he landed a job as an assistant to Steven Spielberg before embarking on a career writing movies for a plethora of film studios: Disney, DreamWorks, Paramount, Fox, and Universal. And he went on to work in television, creating series and teaching screenwriting at universities. His book on screenwriting, Crash, Boom, Bang, How to Write Action Movies, is available wherever books are sold. But Rule One is his debut novel, a suspenseful mystery thriller inspired by a long unsolved medical mystery. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we talk about the facts behind the fiction, I'd like to ask Michael a question. You have a really unique voice in your novel. Where did you find your voice and what authors inspired you?
Wow. Um, well, first of all, I appreciate that you kind of, zoomed in on the voice of the narrator. And it's my snarky, cynical wit coming through. And I think it's been born out of, my youth and my college years in Boston and, slinging it out on the streets of Los Angeles, and wherever else I've been. In terms of authors that inspired me, I'd like to say that it comes from, some of the greats, but I grew up on television and I grew up on movies. So a lot of my uh, wit and sensibility and frame of reference for articulating the vision of those pages comes from Bruce Willis and Mel Gibson and Eddie Murphy and those iconic movie stars that I grew up on, and of course the screenwriters behind them. So whether it be Daniel Petrie Jr. or Aaron Sorkin or Steve Zillion or Shane Black or Cashin Epps, like once I got to college and I found that I could actually write movies for a living, I started reading screenplays. So between reading screenplays, reading books about writing screenplays, and watching movies is really how my uh, author voice, I think, was born.
Oh, well, when I read or listened to Rule One, read and listened to it, the main protagonist is an FBI profiler, Dent McCready. To me, I saw the heart, integrity, and insubordination of Michael Connelly's Bosch. That's what it reminded me of. But since the book is written in multiple POVs, the narrator with his sarcastic wit, and snarky was actually the word I thought of. But that really is the main character to me. Really, I think the main character, the narrator carries through everything. And your book description mentioned Elmore Leonard, and I could see that. But I'm going to tell you, I am very much reminded when I read your book of Carl Hiaasen.
That is one of my favorite authors. And so
Ah,
the fact that you picked up on that is so flattering. And I should also tell you that, and maybe we can talk about this downstream, but um, I'm developing Rule One into a television series now with one of the producers from Bosch. So,
well,
yeah.
well, it's seeping through your
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
your interiority. Well, I thought, I'm telling you, there were parts of as I was reading it initially, I was like, there's what is like something familiar feels familiar, and I just couldn't place it till you got to Florida. And when you got to Florida, and I'm from Florida, you were I felt like I was like, oh, it's Carl Hiaasen. The weirdness and just the way I was like, oh, we're here. So anyway, the comparison becoming a Floridian is quite the compliment. So congratulations. I think the book works really well. It's really
Well,
great.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Frankly, writing the narration with that voice was one of the most enjoyable things. Because I had freedom in writing a novel, in terms of the narration that I don't traditionally have as a screenwriter because we're so confined by the boundaries and format of telling a, constructive 2 hour movie in 120 pages. And so here I kind of got to like take the gloves off and do whatever I wanted. And I had no editors or producers or directors or actors pushing me or pulling me any way. And so I got to just play in the sandbox, and I'm glad that it seems to be resonating with people.
Awesome. I think that's probably pretty telling. I think as an author, a lot of times if you're studying writing a lot, you would not do that. You'd be thinking every point of view has to be written in in more of a narrative feel of that point of view. And some of the greats that do that are very great. But you bringing, throwing away that rule, if you will, that first, it really brought it to life. And I'm not surprised that are finalists for a Silver Falchion. So it's a good reminder to me as a writer. Anyway, I digress, but it's a good reminder to me to, it's passion is better than following the rules.
Well, I don't know if that's a digression. I mean, I really felt like the reason I had license to do that is because it falls in line with Dent's character. He's a
Yeah.
cynical, sardonic,
Mhm. But you
snarky.
do that when it's not in his character POV.
Um, yeah, I try when well, that was one of the things that because he treads into other worlds in this
Hmm.
book and hopefully in subsequent others. You get to see different sides of him, and I hope
Hmm.
to bring some objectivity to the narration so that each one of those facets will feel authentic and not
Awesome.
feel like it's all jaded, you know.
Uh, no, it was really good. It's very good.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so let's get to the facts behind the fiction.
Okay.
A of Rule One. So the key plot line, and you have a few twists and turns. We're not going to give any spoilers away. We are going to have to talk about the main plot. But, we have an FBI profiler chasing a serial killer. And it comes out that the killer is targeting some of his many doctors who could not help him identify or resolve his medical condition. So I said earlier, Rule One was inspired by a long unsolved medical mystery. I just didn't say it was your own mystery. So could you tell us a little about your true life experience that inspired the book?
Sure, I can tell you about it, but you just read about it because much of the book is my story. And a lot of people had encouraged me to try and share my story to help others, but I didn't want to write some biographical story about a guy that got sick and his triumph in getting well. That wasn't very appealing to me, but setting it in the world of a thriller sounded really appealing to me. So I basically was the guy that was a successful screenwriter in Los Angeles and started becoming sick, started finding all these symptoms were hitting me, whether it be foggy headed or shortness of breath or low grade fever or feeling, malaise or feeling a variety of symptoms that I won't put everybody through here. But I started going to doctor after doctor, not only in Los Angeles, but then started seeking healthcare outside of Los Angeles, seeing specialists in different cities around the country. And I went on this whole odyssey, really trying to find homeostasis, trying to find wellness. And while I was riddled with all those symptoms, and not to give away too much of the book, but I ended up finding doctors that did figure out what was going on with me and were able to get me well. And I always wished while I was going through that, that all the doctors or healthcare practitioners of various form that I was seeing um, knew what it felt like to be me when I was coming through their door. And then I realized I'm not the only one. All of us, whether it's us or our children or our parents, or friends going to see doctors hoping that they'll have the answers to get us better, oftentimes do not. And if they make valiant efforts, that's appreciated and valued. But a lot of times they were too busy to do due diligence in order to get to the next patient, or to get to the back nine on a golf course appointment, or to get to a cocktail party, and those sort of things really I found crushing when I'd been sick for so long, and I know that others do too. So that was really my inspiration was I wanted to go back and make those doctors that I had seen know what it felt like to be us.
Yeah.
That was the general impetus for writing the story.
Well, I think you succeeded. So yeah, I was going to say, you said in the book, the killer tries almost every kind of doctor, GPs, even ENT and unorthodox medicine from a Western standpoint. And I guess your real life experience matched that too. You went to many different kinds of doctors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw Eastern doctors, Western doctors, I saw traditional surgeons and specialists, infectious disease doctors, and then I saw Reiki specialists, and I did acupuncture, and I did all kinds of holistic homeopathic remedies, and a lot of those, tinctures and formulas that were concocted for me, or that I was driven to. Um, some of them made me feel worse. And that is really what I wanted
Yeah.
healthcare
Wow.
practitioners to know about. We may come in with some symptoms, but after we're under their care for a while, we leave with others. And it's difficult when you're trying to find a remedy when you don't have any homeostasis is the best word to use, any balance. Like if you're feeling well and you get dizzy, I'm feeling dizzy. But if
Mhm.
you're feeling dizzy already, and then you start feeling low grade fever, and then you start feeling shortness of breath, and then you start feeling like you're being eaten alive from within, then and that's your day-to-day
Mm.
norm. It's difficult to find, you don't have a control group, if you will. And so that's kind of what I was after in my own pursuit to try and just feel normal and ultimately find somebody that could solve it,
Mhm.
solve the
Mhm.
mystery, really.
Wow. Um, at least one provider, when I read it, seemed like it fell under a pretty dodgy licensing. It
Mhm.
was a holistic integrative medical clinic, I think. And you said
Yeah,
in there it was like a 6-month night course. So she was able to do that. I wonder if could tell us a little bit about those, and if you've looked up any more research for your book to know what kind of services these kind of practices can offer who virtually have no medical training.
I think there's all kinds of medical practitioners out there, and I think many of them are excellent. So don't misunderstand me, and I hope you don't misunderstand my book. I'm just taking the bad ones out back and giving them what they deserve.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't think you necessarily need a traditional, you know, 12-year medical, degree and internship in order to be an effective healthcare practitioner. I think there's a lot of nutritionists, and chiropractors and alternative um, uh, doctors and I don't even know if doctors is the right word, but practitioners that can help us ease our pain and improve our health. So I don't know if it's about 12 years or 12 weeks or 12 months of programming. It's just finding whatever works. And in this day and age, there's so much, restriction and constriction around, the medical field that a lot of times the alternative modalities and thinking outside the box is what's required. And in the end, the reason I'm healthy now, I think, is because I pursued health on the three different legs of the stool. I say, you need traditional medicine. I think you also need alternative medicine. I did in my case. And I think you also need some spiritual medicine in terms of having some understanding or foundation and belief of something larger than us. And I think if you're trying to heal from a chronic illness, you really need to be pursuing all three of those, sort of, traditional, alternative, and spiritual. And
Mhm.
if you do, I think there's hope for you getting better. A lot of people pour all their time and energy and money into one of those legs of the
Mhm.
stool. I feel like they're going to have a tougher time getting well.
Mhm. All right. I think that's an answer to a question. I was going to ask, what would you say to someone experiencing similar frustrations with an undiagnosed or misdiagnosed health issue?
Yeah, that's it.
Sure.
But also, I would say don't stop looking. Don't stop searching for the answers. If I was so sick for so long that I just wanted an answer, uh, no matter what it was. If they told me I had cancer, if they told me I had HIV, if they told me I had lupus, if they had an answer to anything, I would have been relieved in some capacity because then we would have known what I had and we would have known how I could have, tackled it or at least treated the symptoms. But in my case, nobody could figure it out. And so what happened was a lot of people were just throwing different things at the wall to see what would stick. And a lot of those things they were throwing were making me feel worse.
Wow. Mm.
So I think if there's not an answer, just keep looking. I like to think that the answers are out there. You just got to keep searching for them. I had a lot of doctors say that I was suffering from anxiety and depression, or I was suffering, which
No
may have,
duh. I'm sure, right?
yeah, after being sick for so long, I think that did take hold, and then that needed to be dealt with as well. But also chronic fatigue syndrome, which is, and it was just a little and more nebulous things. People couldn't quite pinpoint it. And not to say it's an easy task, but when you're the one that's sick and you're the one that's feeling that way, all you want is to feel well, and you really I was open to anything. And I think you kind of need that open mind in order to find the answer that works for you.
Well, are you up for telling what it was? Since what in the end was the cause of all of your illness?
I can, but I don't know if I want to give away
Okay, you're gonna
the book.
make people
I
read it.
mean,
Okay.
I'll say that the answers are in the book, and I
Okay.
think that's part of the mystery that I think some readers or listeners may enjoy.
Okay.
And giving away what made me sick might give away a great hook for their.
Okay, we won't tell. I do want to say it wasn't some insanely crazy thing that nobody in the world, like some strange tropical disease that only four people have experienced. So that was not the case, right? It was something should have been caught probably. Yeah,
Well,
that.
well, I hear you, but at the time I was going through it, not a lot of people were privy to it. And I literally went, you'll see in the book that I went to over 40 doctors in 7 states over
Mm,
12 years. And it literally took all of that with me relentlessly pursuing it in order to find health. And yeah, there's probably a couple of twists and turns along the way that could have expedited the process. But I also came to believe, given the fact that my path was so unorthodox, that there is sort of a bigger picture to it and a more spiritual, you know, element to my personal story. You know, I was hell bent on becoming a successful screenwriter and creating movies and television, you know, for the world when I went to LA, and then I got sick. And then not until I sort of like found faith and started asking God, like, why is this happening to me? And started getting better on the other side, did I start finding this opportunity and fulfillment in teaching what I had learned in writing. And that kind of led me to becoming a college professor and writing books on storytelling and doing workshops and panels. And over the last 10 or 12 years, I've been fortunate to teach thousands of, you know, aspiring young creatives how to tell their own stories. So when you go through something like that, I think there comes a point when you start looking at things uh, from 30,000 feet, and I'm slow and I'm stubborn. So maybe if I had tuned into that shift earlier, maybe I would have escaped, you know, my ailment earlier. But it, that's what happened, you know.
and I guess for our listeners out there, some you did mention all the three legs of the stool, and only one of those legs is really covered by insurance. So you
Mhm.
really have to fight and just be willing to pay
Yeah,
emotionally, financially, spiritually, to get better sometimes.
yeah. I think sort of like in order for that rebirth of the human spirit or of the soul or a new angle to their journey, you kind of need to have everything stripped away. So when I first started getting sick, I was doing well professionally, I was doing well romantically,
Mhm.
I had a great friend group, I had a cute house, I had a car that got me where I needed to go, and I had a dog that I loved. And then one by one, all
Mhm.
those things were pulled away from me. And that's
Oh.
kind of what I put the hero through
Mm.
in the story. And that's what our FBI investigator is unearthing, is that
Mhm.
he knows that doctors are being killed, but he doesn't know why. And the further he digs into the motives of the killer, does he come to realize what led him to become that
Mhm.
man.
Mhm. Well, very nice, interesting. Um, well, those are all of the questions that I had.
That's
Dr. Fick,
it.
is there, I don't know, is there, well, is there something else you think we should know about, any other facts you can tell us behind the fiction then? Or World War
Um,
One?
yeah, I'll say that just about everything in the book is true, except for
Okay.
the killing and the drinking, is what
Okay.
I tell people. I poured all the pain of my past, of my journey toward health, into Dent McCreary's investigation
Mm,
of the killer. And I poured all the pain of Dent's toxic relationship that he had with his ex-girlfriend and her daughter um, into Dent's personal journey. I mean, that
mhm.
was a relationship that I had. So I basically took
Oh my
my most
goodness.
physical pain and my biggest emotional pain, and I just dumped them all into the book to enjoy the catharsis of getting them out of my system.
Wow.
I think that in itself was very healing for me, just to write it, but now let alone uh, that it's being read and people are connecting with the material is very rewarding, and people are relating to his path in a lot of ways is fulfilling. And now that we're on the cusp of turning it into a limited television series, to reach even more people and hopefully affect how healthcare is viewed and how
Yep.
healthcare practitioners view patients, um, um, is kind of why I think I'm here and why I wrote the
Wow.
book. Yeah,
I love that. That's wonderful. High aspirations and wish you all the luck in turning that into a limited series. But
thank you.
that can't be all. What is going to be next? Are we going to have another book, another Dent McCready book? And if so, how? What are you going to do? Where are you going to get your new paint, your paint?
It's a good question. And to tell you the truth, I didn't know if I was gonna like writing a novel. Um, and I didn't know if anybody was gonna like reading it. Uh, but I really enjoyed writing, and I enjoyed the freedom it gave me as a writer and as a creative. Um, and people are really connecting with and enjoying the book. And as soon as I got like halfway through it and I saw what it was and what it was becoming, I got an idea for Rule 2, which is the follow-up to Rule 1, which is Dent McCreary back investigating crimes and injustices in the world of immigration.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
and
toughy.
I think
Plenty of pain
Rule
there to go around.
Yeah, there's a
Mm.
lot, obviously, nowadays in the press and politics that needs to be unfurled, unraveled, and dealt with. And I aim to do my part in Rule 2.
Good.
Um, and Rule 3, I think Dent McCreary is going to descend into the bowels of the church and
No.
and explore and expose
Mm.
injustices and crimes happening there.
Wow.
So those are the first three
Mhm.
rule books that I have in mind, and I have a few others, maybe take on Wall Street,
Mhm.
maybe some other things, but we'll see. But right now, those are the three I'm most excited about. So right now, I'm knee deep in writing Rule 2 and learning a lot about immigration and I have not suffered great
Mhm.
pains in immigration. So I've been traveling a bit and meeting with subject matter experts a bit and Googling a lot and reading lots of articles and
Mhm.
following what's happening in Washington and along our borders. And so it's helped me structure the story in such a way that is really sound and it lends itself to a really compelling novel, but also I think sets itself up to be season 2 of a limited series,
Yes.
should people like season 1.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Excellent. Well, congratulations again. Thank you so much for joining us today on From Fact to Fiction. So, all of our listeners and watchers and readers out there, you're going to have to pick up Rule 1 to learn the mystery. I recommend the audiobook if you're an audiobook listener because it was just fantastic. So, thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. Maybe you'll come back and see us when you've got when Rule 2's out.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so
Okay.
much for having me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.